Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram @From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar at YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started. Now I'm going to turn you over to your host, Shane Grove.
Hey everyone, Shane Grove here, and I want to let you guys know that my book series, From the Shadows, is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. There are 3 different books available. There's Volume 1 and Volume 2, Return of the Lizard Man, and then there's a special screenplay edition which includes both Volume 1 and Volume 2 in screenplay format. So if you're a big fan of Bigfoot, lizard men, conspiracy theories, the X-Files, and mysterious men in black, I urge you to go and check out these books. And if you like them, you know what? Please leave me a great review. And if you don't like them, I apologize. So anyway, check them out. And if you really want a autographed copy, message me through From the Shadows Podcast, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks. Enjoy the episode. Hey, welcome everybody to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove, and once again, I find myself extremely close to the judge tonight. How's it going, Judge?
It's sharing another set of headphones again for another round, so it's uncomfortably close.
I know, but I do appreciate the aftershave that you put on tonight.
I wore it just for you. It's Abercrombie.
Abercrombie. What's better than Brute? By Fabergé.
That's one of our sponsors.
It's one of our sponsors. Okay. Hey, Jason, the producer, how's it going tonight?
Doing well. I hope you gentlemen are nice and cozy over there.
We are. It's becoming a kind of a Wednesday night habit for us to.
Oh, that's not good.
There's worse habits we could have.
That is true.
As you heard before we came on the air, there's worse habits that we could have. So everybody, we're super excited tonight. We have a special guest from the Sunshine State, and I'm going to call him an expert because I don't know anybody else who knows as much as he does about the subject we're going to talk about tonight. Skunk Ape expert Stacy Brown joins us from Florida tonight. How you doing, Stacy?
Doing good, man. How about y'all?
Well, other than sitting way uncomfortably close to this guy.
What is that about now? What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Well, because of the time that we're recording this episode, Jason cannot be in our presence. And Jason, the producer, comes with certain technical
expertise
devices that make our recording a little more comfortable. In other words, the judge and I are sharing a set of earbuds hooked up to my iPad.
Oh, wow.
and so we're kind of close.
It literally feels like we're at the prom together and they're playing Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin.
This is 2020, and you don't have a pair of AirPods.
Well, now where would be the fun in that?
Yeah.
See, the debauchery runs deep.
AirPods are not in the budget.
Of course.
We're old school.
Yeah, we're old school. Just be glad, when we had Shannon LeGros, and she goes, do you guys have one big headphone? And you guys, your ears are together and there's a head? No, we don't.
Hey, Grover still walks around with a Walkman cassette tape.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
So I'm super excited to have Stacy on tonight because the subject matter, Skunk Ape, is something we've never had on our show.
Other than a glancing story by Mark Muncy.
Right.
Mark Muncy.
So this is a good topic because I've kind of scratched my head on this whole concept of the skunk ape and how it fits into the whole Sasquatch and Bigfoot realm and genre. Yep. And is there a difference and how are they related? So we have Stacy Brown with us tonight who's going to clear this up for us.
Oh, he's going to clear it up.
Clear it up.
On the spot. You got to clear it up.
Here we go.
You called the right person.
Yes, we did.
So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background, and how you became, in our words, the preeminent skunk ape expert.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if I had to label myself anything, I guess I would be a skunk ape researcher first. You know what I mean?
Enthusiast.
Yeah, enthusiast. Really enthusiast. So one thing led to another, man. I seen one of these things in 2011, right there at the end. And then, it just kind of turned into an obsession, like unhealthy obsession.
So growing up as a kid, were you into cryptozoology and the paranormal?
Most definitely. Like when I was a kid, I watched Unsolved Mysteries, and that show Sightings, and the dude from Star Trek was on it.
Yeah, Leonard Nimoy.
No.
Not that
one.
one.
You're thinking
In Search of. Yeah, I'm thinking of In Search of. Yes.
Jason,
yeah.
Stacy's much younger than us.
I'm 36, so
yeah, he's much younger than us. Okay, when he says Star Trek, he probably means
Next Generation.
Yep.
Jonathan Frakes. Yes.
There you go.
I'm not even sure Stacy knows who Captain Kirk is.
Oh, come on now, my dad. I still had to watch that crap with my dad, but it was like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good to me. Like, I didn't
Shatner would slap you right now for that.
It was probably great back in the day, like, because my dad watched, what was it, Lost in Space with me. And, and wow, man.
You probably don't even know who Kolchak the Night Stalker is. Then.
Hey, remember Space 1999?
Yeah, so anyways, I would watch these shows with my dad, and so I had all my friends convinced there was Bigfoot living in the woods across the street, right? Because we lived in a rural community. It was probably about 8,000 people when I was growing up. Most of the roads were dirt, and we played in the woods. You didn't stay in the house. So actually was at a young age, probably around 6 or 7, looking for Bigfoot in the woods around where I lived. And, we go out there and scare ourselves, and then everybody take off running out of the woods. It was just kids being kids, but I was interested in it. And then, life just kind of, was life. And, I was wrestling, and then I got into music. And, then had family and things like that. And then, kind of come back around full circle when I was like 27 or so, I guess. I can't really remember how old I was at the time off the top of my head. But, that I got back into Bigfooting. Me and my dad were doing it as a way to get out of the house. But we really didn't never actually think anything would turn up. Because everybody thinks, at least I did, is I had Bigfoot. You think Washington State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't generally think Florida.
You don't think Florida. But then when you look at it, like, had I been educated at that age about things that I would have liked to have known, I would have thought about, I've been able to theorize. I'd have been like, all right, hey, you know what? This is a warm climate. if we're really going to talk about the possibility of this creature living anywhere in the United States, it's going to be smack dab where we're at. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think of the misconception about the state of Florida for people that just vacation in Florida is they think beaches and Disney World and stuff like that. And my dad, who lived in Florida for almost 30 years before he passed away, he lived out in the sticks. And you get away from in the beaches, and it is really a remote state with a lot of foliage and a lot of swamps and woods and things like that. And it's a perfect environment for, I would think.
Well, it's very inhospitable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get out to the mosquitoes and the terrain and the
snakes and the alligators and all.
So it'd be perfect.
But see, you can eat most of those things.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? It doesn't. It doesn't really freeze here.
Right.
You know, the environment. I find it hard to believe that in some of those parts in Washington that this creature would actually exist because of how cold it gets. I mean, and granted, we do have bears up there, you know, so I know animals can make it happen, but we're talking about a humanoid type figure.
Yeah, but you think about bears. Bears in them states, they hibernate during the winter because there is a lack of food.
Right.
And
so are you telling me that this animal that I seen did that? Because there ain't no way in hell. This guy didn't have the pounds to go laying up for 4 months.
Well, and that's sort of the whole thing about Sasquatch, where we've gotten into debates with people is, you know, how does something that big consume enough calories to be able to, you know, to be able to move and to be able to exist? And then you get in a cold weather climate when there's not the, you know, the vegetation.
Well, I just want to point out to you, I only have, as big as I am, I only have to consume about 1,500 or 2,000, and I still maintain this svelte figure that I walk around. I mean, so it's not like he's got to go eat a cat-side.
But hey, when you get outside and you're in the elements, you know, that shit comes off of you quick. So
hey, I'm a mailman. It doesn't come off very quick.
But keep in mind, animals are different. I mean, because in order to keep your body warm, you know, your body has to burn calories to keep yourself warm. So if you're out in the elements, or the same thing to keep your body cool, you know, your body expends a lot of calories either keeping your body cool or keep your body warm. It's not like us sitting in an air conditioning or something like that. So, right. But so back to the topic. So did you ever really think as a kid when you were running around that Bigfoot was real? Or did you think this was something, you know, folklore, urban legends, things like that people?
No, hey, it was in my head. It was in my head. These things are real. You know, those shows left such an impression on me. And then, you know, like hearing my granny, hearing her talk about it, because they lived in more of the sticks than I did. You know what I mean? They grew up when, like, back in the day, like the 40s and stuff, and they still lived in the area. So I could only imagine when there was like 700 people in the town. What
sort of stories did you hear from your granny?
Oh, just, you know, typical things about not going out at night because that man's out there, and she was always talking about, you know, the hairy man that was out there, the monkey man is what they would call it. So it was just, I guess more, she had told me she had seen it when she was a kid, you know, one way or another, a chicken coop in different places, but to not basically be outside late at night. So I didn't. Growing up, you think back on it, and it's like, she was probably just telling me that, but maybe she wasn't. Because my Uncle Bobby had told me one about how he was on the Ochlockonee River, because back then you could do like, you could sell catfish. I mean, you still sell catfish now, but for the most part, the industry is through like farm raised. Mm-hmm. So back then, he caught catfish for a living, and he said he saw somebody swimming across the river there at like midnight, you know, and this in Florida is kind of odd, you know, because there's some very massive alligators in the Ochlockonee River. And nighttime's just not the time to be splashing around. So anyways, he said it was swimming right over, and so he drove the boat over it because he seen it swimming.
Thinking maybe this is a person there in distress.
Yeah, and just didn't have a light or nothing. And when he hit it with its light, he said the thing turned and it grabbed the front of the boat and turned and looked at him and screamed. He said it was gone, and it was just stuff like that. So it definitely had me afraid of the dark, whether any of these things were real or not. But there was a few stories in there that were just like, ugh.
Did your uncle then keep going out catfishing at night on the river?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what he did for a living. So it wasn't like it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like you're just saying,
no,
you know what, I'm going to go ahead and quit how I make it.
I don't know. You run into something like that may change your.
So you're telling me if you're delivering the mail someday and you see something like this, you're just going to give up delivering the mail?
Absolutely.
But just be careful you don't look in the mirror.
Look, if a dog even looks at me, I feel like quitting or retiring. What are you talking about? Imagine if it's good.
So as a kid, so you hear these stories, and those are pretty cool stories. I mean,
I've never heard. That is the first story I've heard of one in the water like that.
Right.
Like,
oh wow.
That's a
So
great
hey,
story.
at least in this state, there's a lot of the stories are in the water.
Really? Like once. Yeah, I've never heard of one like.
So so when your uncle told you that story, what was his belief as to what he saw?
Oh yeah, definitely a Bigfoot. Like no doubt. You know what I mean?
So explain. I guess so. You're calling it Bigfoot. We commonly know it as skunk ape in Florida.
Well, yeah. So I just
Is there a difference?
So, all right, you seen like a white-tailed deer, or here better example, the panther, the Florida panther. It's the same thing as the mountain lion.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact thing, bro. It's just like smaller. So they give it a little bit of a species classification. They change it. You know what I mean? They're two different animals now, but they're basically the same thing. So I think what you have is the same thing with like our white-tailed deer and our black bear.
Mm.
Same things, just smaller, closer to the equator, tougher environment,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So am I correct in that where the skunk ape comes from name, it's not because it smelled like a skunk, but because one of the first recorded sightings described as having a white stripe on its head or back, and it reminded someone of a skunk. Am I right on that, or am I wrong?
Yep, that's true. That was up here in the Panhandle. Had a white stripe on its head, and so that's what they thought. And a lot of the earlier sightings of this creature, like that's not the only one that's had it. It even had, I think, it wasn't Lettuce Lake, or maybe it was Lettuce Lake, but they had somebody put a damn thing out there and had a white stripe on top of its head. It was like a gorilla with a white stripe painted on top of its head. But so that like made the news. But anyways, there's been a lot of sightings of that. Back in the day, you had a lot of sightings of them being just like solid white too. So, but you don't get those that much anymore, at least.
So are you saying that the Florida skunk ape, which it's falling under the Bigfoot category, is smaller than the Midwestern or the Pacific?
Not necessarily like, not necessarily like smaller in like height. Thing that I saw could have very well been 8 foot tall. You know what I'm saying? I can't exactly tell you how tall the damn thing was. I can guess, but I didn't be like, hold still. You know what I mean?
Right.
Shit out here. We're going to do this right. You're going to come over here and scare the hell out of me and my friend. We're going to do some stuff. So, no, it wasn't like that. It was just like, maybe he was 6.5 feet tall. Fuck, maybe he was 8 feet tall. I know he wasn't 10, but he was just like, he looked like he lived in a swamp, bro. Like, I don't know how to explain that.
So tell us. Let's hear your first encounter with the skunk ape that led you to the next level of investigating and researching and stuff.
Okay, so I take it everybody's familiar with Finding Bigfoot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You remember the second episode? They were in Florida, and this lady had a handprint on the inside of her door.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think I do remember.
It does
Yeah.
sound familiar, yeah.
If not, you can look it up on YouTube. It's up there. But so, anyways, they put this lady's name on the TV, and I was like, that can't be her real name. You know what I mean? I didn't think they'd actually put somebody's real name up there, but they did. So we had a thing called the White Pages. Back then. Okay.
Now you're sounding as old as us. And you picked up your rotary dial phone.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right.
And called her up. There she was. She was right in the phone book, you know. And so we called her up. I talked to her on the phone, and she told us to come back in November. So me and my dad were gonna go. He got sick. And wasn't able to go, but me and my bass player went. My bass player's like, I'll go with you. And so he goes with me, and immediately we pull up in the yard, and I say the yard, they had a driveway. It was probably half a mile long through the woods, and they had this little house just built back. It was like on 30 acres, but there was more or less like 5,000 acres right there where there really wasn't anything, you know, different hunting leases and stuff. And a creek run through there, a flat creek. And I-10 interstate was right there. So just a beautiful area. And anyways, as we're driving in the driveway, we see something step into the bushes out of the road, you know, and I was like, hell no, you know, we thought like power of suggestion, you know, we're psyching ourselves up, and
mass hysteria.
Yeah, well, you know, when you get around somebody, like I do ghost hunting too, and like depending on who you're around, the whole feel will be different, because like if you're with my brother-in-law, that dude, hey, it ain't gonna feel right in there to him, and he's gonna let you know, hey, something just don't feel right now. You know what I'm saying? You got that person, so.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying not to hype ourselves up, because that stuff, while it is fun, it is in no way helpful with anything. So we think we see that. Then we meet her and her husband Bill, and they tour us around. We sit in the back of like this Kawasaki Mule. You know what I'm talking about? One of them like side by side things.
Yeah.
And so they drive us around the property, and they're telling us about all the stuff that's happened there. There's a sighting. Somebody seen one right there. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And then she drops the bomb on us as they're putting us where we're going to camp. We are the only people to ever camp out there. And I was like, oh, shit. They drove away, and I was like, damn, bro.
Meaning you and your buddy are the only ones that are going to camp out there.
Have ever camped out there.
Wow.
So could you hear them laughing as they drove away over the...
Oh, no. Well, she said, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. You know, I like call her bluff. So we go around, we explore the place. A shit ton of intricate tree breaks, like structures. And they weren't structures like everybody always says. And I often laugh and just wonder if maybe it's because I've never really found these huge structures, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the structures that I find often are like knee high. The middle of fucking nowhere. And then you just got this little structure that's been built that's like maybe knee high, maybe waist high. You know, and that's what we were finding all over the place. But like, you gotta figure these people are old. Right, so they're not good. She's got lupus and shit, so they're not going to be like coming out there in the woods. And
yeah, they're not building those things.
It's not them
to hope somebody that in a place where nobody goes.
Exactly, and like, what were the chances on your 30 acres that I was going to go through those thick ass bushes, cross that creek, and then find that thing tucked off over in there? You know what I mean? Like, what would you do it for? It makes no sense.
Right.
So, anyways, we go. It becomes nighttime, and we go out. We sit on this ridge where we found this one structure that we called the balance beam, because it was almost like a scale. Like there was two things, two kind of structures like made, and now you got to figure this is about waist high. There was these things like bent over, and then there was one just laid across it just perfect. If you scooted that fucker too far one way, it would come off. You know what I mean? It was just like really odd. You couldn't like, I don't know how you would have blamed that on a storm. You
Gotcha.
know, I mean,
Yeah,
it was just
right.
odd.
It wasn't an accident. It wasn't
No,
an act
like-
of nature or accident. It was somebody purposely.
Yeah, like
did
either
that,
they
yeah.
did it, or somebody's fucking with them. You know what I mean? Like there was only two options. It's either a human built this or a Bigfoot built this.
Right.
Skunk Ape, Sasquatch, whatever. So we sit there and we see this. I have one of these little thermal cameras that was like it's got the screen you can see on it. A little i7, I think it was, a FLIR i7 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, they're like for looking at wires and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. We got them at work.
So we're looking across this ridge, and there's this heat signature there. We can't really tell what it is. You know, it's just a blob, and you can't tell how far away it is. And it's November, and these hickory nuts are falling out of the trees. And we start noticing that they're falling up the hill, if that makes sense. They would like bounce in front of us and come up with velocity, like it was thrown, not like it was dropped. Like you're coming up the hill, and you got to figure this is the one spot in Florida where there's actually hills. The rest of the state's flat as a pancake. But this part of the state, you would think you're in northern Georgia or something like that, you know. And that was, I mean, it was bouncing up the hill towards us. And then we realized that thing that's sitting over there in that clump of trees is throwing shit at us.
Jeez.
So we got up, we walked back to the camp. Come to find out, we were actually not too far from our camp. But because we only knew the trails, we ended up having to go walk the rest of the property to get back to our camp. So we ended up having to walk over a mile. But as the crow flies, we were right there at our camp. So as soon as we get back to the camp, shit starts up. We're kind of on a hill, and it's about like a 75-foot drop all around us, or at least like 3/4 of the way. The backside to us is a really young planted pine forest, and a lot of undergrowth. So just around down the hill there was just all this walking around, you know, the 2 steps, stop. And so we would shine the lights, our floodlight. You know, we had this little floodlight that I floundered with. I gig flounder with it. You can see you know, it lights up the bottom of the damn bay there, so you can see what you're doing. And so I shine it at this tree, and the noises would stop, bro. But then I would hold it on. I'd be like, all right, cool. I can do this. I can do this. I can sit here. And I swear to you, man, second you turn that light off, that thing go back to moving. Second you turn that light, it didn't matter however long I would wait. That thing would wait longer than I would.
So let me ask this question real quick.
Yeah, man.
Because did you have any guns or firearms with you?
Of course.
Okay.
Doesn't he sound like where he grew up that
He would have.
that he doesn't go to the grocery store without a gun?
It sounds like to me he's got a pickup truck with a Gatling gun on the back
Probably.
and just drives around,
Uh,
just jacklighting deer.
we take care of the population. Yeah.
So you're there, And at some point, do you say, look, maybe we got to get the hell out of here?
Not yet.
I mean, because I got to be honest with you. At this point, I know something's up there and it's screwing with me. I got to start thinking to myself, at what point do you say, you know what?
And you're pretty sure, it's not another person that,
Oh, well, so like that gun is a Ruger Red Hawk 44 Magnum, and it's like chrome, and it's in my hand. All right?
Okay.
So, like, if it is somebody, they are on their last marble, bro. All right, well, like, you can't look up the hill and see that and be like, all right, yeah, hey, this is still a good idea. Let's continue on this route. Because the second something jumped out behind that tree and screamed, it's going down. Like, I ain't fucking around.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's so you.
That's how scared I was.
That's how scared you. Okay.
Okay.
So you were. Yeah. I mean, you were scared, but you still wanted to. Still wanted to know what the heck is out there.
Well, so you get into this spot where you're like, when I was talking about it would wake me out. You sitting there, you're like, this can't be happening. You know what I mean? Like, I seen myself as a fairly intelligent person, and at the time, Bigfoot ain't real. Bigfoot's cool, but this lady is crazy, and all this shit is bullshit.
It's pop culture.
Yeah, it's just a weirdness. You know what I mean? And so you struggle with it, and so we're sitting there, stuff's going down. Sitting on the cooler, we're now drinking. I'm now drinking. Okay. My buddy was going to drink regardless, right? He didn't carry a gun.
Well, he is the bass player.
He is the bass player. Okay, so all right, we know what we're on the same page here. So we're just sitting there. It gets quiet. We almost forget about what the hell's went on, and then you just hear this like.
And that's not the bass player.
No, that ain't the bass player, because we both turn and they're at the end of the light. As far as that firelight reached, you can see that thing standing there looking at us. And then it just turns around and walks back into the woods. You know what I mean? It kind of snored. That's how I tell people. It's like it kind of snored. It snored,
Like a snort?
Like it was a sleep. Snore. Yeah, like he was snoring almost.
His breathing sounded like snoring.
Huh.
And that thing didn't look like it was having a good time. You know what I mean? It looked like life was as hell. I hear everybody talk about, the hair was so nice, especially down here. Very few people that I talk to. And hey, I'll tell you, honestly, if I talk to 100 people, probably 5 of them are telling the truth. The rest of the people are fucking with me for whatever reason. That's not being fair. And they either think you're gonna put them on TV or some shit like that.
So describe for our listeners, what did the hair look like? Color, texture, length.
Okay, so color ain't gonna really. I'm colorblind. Okay, so it was. I mean, from the fire lighting it up, at a distance like that color, that hair could have been dark, like brown. It could have been black. You know what I mean? It kind of looked like a reddish brown. That could have been.
But it wasn't white.
No, it wasn't white. It's a darker color, but so it's like not covered completely in hair either. Like it is, but not thick. Like, okay, if you look at the Boggy Creek cover and you see that lanky animal crossing the creek there or wherever, you know what I'm talking about? That iconic post.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what the thing looked like. But like the hair's not thick. It's like thin. Them arms are gangly. The thing looked nasty, bro. It looked greasy.
So what you saw truly looks like what people described 200 years ago as the wild hairy man. It doesn't look like the fully covered in hair.
So like
yeah, these
like
people talk about some type of Chewbacca creature that I don't even know is a thing. Like that's something I look into when I talk to these people, because I kind of You got to use critical thinking skills at some point. The thing ain't going to be sitting out there with beautiful hair. What is it, brush the shit out?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not out in the swamp area.
Well, now, hey, so you answered your own kind of observation. Why it looks so miserable.
Now, hey, like at the same time, you got to figure, so I see this, right? And I go into that obsession. I start staying out there for like 10 days at the time, living off the land. My thing was becoming Bigfoot. That's what was stuck in my head. If I'm going to find these creatures.
Sounds like a new show, Becoming Bigfoot.
Well, it's like, if you're going to find these creatures, you have to do as they do. So I'd take like 2-3 days worth of food in case I just could not find nothing to eat for the first few days. But once you find the food, then you find the hogs, and then everything's there. Then your activity's there.
So you're out there killing wild hogs, eating them, living off the land.
Snakes.
Eating snakes too.
Yeah, I wouldn't kill the hogs. They're too much trouble.
Oh man, what kind of snakes are you eating?
Moccasins. Rattlesnakes are hard to find nowadays. But sometimes you get like a rat snake. Depends on what you get. Hell, when you get hungry and you're trying to do what they're doing, you're gonna eat it.
So are you telling us that you could be on the show naked and afraid?
Oh yeah, that would be no problem.
All right.
I'd be
I think the challenge has been laid down.
I think it would be weird because it would be like, wow, this dude's either too happy to be surviving or just excited that he's naked and there's cameras.
So you had that first experience. What happened right after that, and then
Okay, so after that, that thing walks away. We end up, it walks away, but it continues what it's doing with the popping the sticks and walking around and like the kind of weird noises that you're hearing. You can't really tell what they are. And so my bass player goes to bed. Apparently he doesn't make it all the way into the tent. I fell asleep on the cooler. Okay, I fell asleep setting up. I actually woke up, fell over and woke up. So I get into the tent. He's hammered. I drank some, but I wasn't I could have drove, not legally, but I could operate the vehicle to the other end of the road. I wouldn't get on the highway, but
you know how many times the judge has heard that very same statement?
I'm sure. But you know what I'm talking about. I'm not wasted drunk.
Right.
I probably wouldn't legally pass, but I'm not hallucinating things. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And who's ever gotten drunk and hallucinating? Like, everybody always makes a big deal out of, were they drinking? What does it matter? You know what I mean? I guess unless they're trashed. So, we get into the tent. I go to sleep. I got my pistol right beside me. All is good. I don't know what time of morning it was. I wake up to a grown man screaming. And I open my eyes, and the tent is right about 2-3 inches above the top of my face. You know what I'm saying? So, it had pressed the tent down, and I don't know what happened to make Matt scream, but something had pressed that tent down. Something woke him up while it happened, but when I woke up, the tent was in the face, and then he's screaming. The tent pops up, and now how you got to figure, this is a 2-man tent. This is a small tent. We had no intentions on sleeping in the same tent. There were 2 tents set up. We got into the same one. Grown men. All right.
This sounds like a whole different podcast. I'm waiting for the candlelight and Barry White here. Oh yeah. So you wake up and something is in the act of pressing the tent down. Is what you're saying? Okay.
Right. And so it lets go right after I open my eyes, shortly after. 1-2 seconds. Long enough for me to see that it was there, and then it comes off. and then you hear it run off. Doom, 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 doom. And we're just kind of sitting there like, what in the hell has just happened? We were scared to go outside. Like, terrified, dude. I mean, I was scared. And so I guess we both stayed awake as long as we could. I ended up, dozing back off, setting up again. But as soon as like daylight came, he went and got in his truck. And he was like, come on, we'll sleep in the truck. And I was like, dude, no, I was like, what do you want to do? You want to wake up and see that thing looking at you? And you having to look back at it? Fuck that. I wasn't in the market to do that at the time.
Well, I think that brings up an interesting situation there, because in the truck, you think you would feel more safe.
No.
You know what I'm saying? In the tent, I mean, it pressed the thing down to your face. It could just, the tent, you're incredibly vulnerable.
Right.
But you're saying,
what
you
else
didn't
you
want to
gonna
wake
do
up
in the
and
truck? Like, what are you gonna do? He's gonna have to make a 3-point turn to get us out of here. Like at the time, no, I'm just gonna sit there and watch this thing do whatever.
So you were scared you were gonna wake up and this thing's face was gonna be right in your face.
Right. Petrified, bro. No part of me wanted to deal with this. And that's how I've never really got into, how I felt about the encounter, what I felt during the time and stuff. But I never at any point wanted to lay my eyes on this thing.
So did you ever go and talk to the property owner and tell him what you experienced?
I went back to sleep in the tent. He slept in the truck. When we woke up, he came and got me up. And we went to Hardee's, didn't say a word. Hardee's was like a 20-minute drive. We ate breakfast. About midway through breakfast, he said, they ain't got us. What you want? They didn't get us last night. What do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to call my dad. I called my dad. I said, hey, man, I think we're going to come home. He's like, you mean to tell me you've been looking for Bigfoot? You found Bigfoot, and now you come into the house. So
did you say, well, why don't you get in your truck and come out here and sleep in this tent?
Oh no, well he would have. That was his thing. He was recovering from they had like taken half his bladder and one of his kidneys because he had cancer. So he would have been there, and that was the thing he was telling me. He's like, dude, I'm sick. If it's really out there, stay out there. And so we did. Darkness came again. We did tell the property owner around 3, kind of what happened. We let her know we had some stuff go on last night. Didn't want to give away too much. Didn't really know, because at this point now I'm starting to question, are they messing with us?
Right. Is this a big gag?
Yeah, is this a big gag? I spend the majority of the day walking around looking for game cameras. I'm trying to see if I'm like, I don't know.
See if they got you on Big Brother.
Yeah. See if they're doing anything. I just remember looking for game cameras, thinking, how many people are coming out here in these woods? Is it because they couldn't do it, but maybe their sons could, But I couldn't find anything. So, darkness fell again. Shit started back up, didn't miss a beat. But no like encounter second night. The only thing we heard was it went off probably 30, 40 yards away. It like did this kind of scream thing. I try to mimic it when I do my calls. It was like the first call I heard. And then one answered it, probably sounded like it was a mile away or so.
So how many do you think was out there?
I think it was just one that night. But about a mile away was another one They were probably in the area, but I don't think we ever heard more than one. I didn't, like when my dad got his footage, there was probably like 3 or 4. You know, just by like, here I'm hearing footsteps over here, now I'm hearing the same shit over there. Now they're knocking back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I believe there was only one there at that point. But anyways, it sold me. You know, I was done. I was like, all right, I quit my band. We were making good money. We were playing a cover band.
All right. So what was the name of your cover band?
Oh, we didn't start out a cover band, but my band's name was Fireplug. We just ended up doing a show, and you know, we knew some covers and we played them, and then they were like, "Hey, we'll pay you $600 a night," and we're like, "All right." So we started doing it. The next thing you knew, we were making like $1,000 on a night, and then we had like steady gigs everywhere. Like
and you walked away from that because you had been bitten by the bug.
Yep. Quit all that because, well, you know, there's a lot of bullshit with the band, anyways. You know what I mean? You can't. I don't really hear of a lot of good things that come out of a bar.
Well,
y'all got that buddy that met his wife at the bar.
As a matter of fact,
whatever. You know, never nothing good. So
yeah, usually doesn't last.
Nope.
You know, a good name for your band would have been Stacy Brown and the Bigfoots.
Jeez.
Well, everybody thought of me as a nut because, like, I was still into Bigfoot because Rick Dyer fooled me. That first 2008 hoax he had on CNN and shit, I was telling everybody because I've watched Bigfoot videos back then, and I was still very much into it. And, you know, I watched them videos and show everybody. They laugh, they poke fun. I was like, Rick Dyer, oh, this shit's real. He's a cop, you know, because I'd heard he was a cop. I was like, he's a fucking police officer. He ain't playing. Sure as shit, he was playing.
So Stacy, let me ask you this. What do you say to the skeptics? Because I've heard skeptics say that, you know, anybody that goes out in the woods looking for Bigfoot and claims that they see a Bigfoot is probably full of shit. That it's you know, that people.
I'll tell you what he says. Check out my dad's thermal footage.
I kind of want him to answer, not you.
You know, here's the deal. Like, I wouldn't have believed you 10 years ago. You know what I mean? I'd have listened to you, but most people won't believe you. And I wouldn't have believed you. Even when I was going through my first encounter, that was a big problem. This ain't supposed to be real. And I can't believe this is happening. It was in more of a shock. So, you know, when you're telling somebody that there's a 8-foot tall hairy man walking out in the woods, that's a tall order to get somebody to believe, bro.
Right. So historically, Florida, help me out on this because I'm going to screw the dates up, Stacy. 1800s, wasn't there a situation where someone captured a what they called a hairy man and basically didn't know what it was, thought it was somebody escaped from a mental asylum and
yeah, I think you talked about it on the documentary, right? That's
yeah. It was 1886, I want to say, right after the Civil War ended.
Has it really ended down there?
All right, so next question.
All right, I got him with that one.
Well, you know, I mean, still sore probably. I don't know. It's more of how, I guess the problem with it is more of how it was actually portrayed of what it was about.
I'm following you.
Yes.
I was a history major, so I got you.
Yeah, well, you know, the victor always writes the story.
Yes,
and
right.
And I guess you got to have a bad guy. But you can't tell me that the whole South's going to fight for what 3% of the population owns. Anyways, so this thing, these people have moved into this area called Ocheesee Pond, and it's a rough area, bro. And they're trying to avoid the carpetbaggers coming down. They don't want nothing to do with it. They're just like, we'll go out here. They'll leave us alone. Well, they get out there. They build their little community, and they realize that there's like a local that lives in the area. He's coming up stealing chickens, the livestock. And depending on who you talk to, a kid got like really close to being grabbed. Okay, some people say it's just made up. Others say it definitely happened. That, they have been told. And that's all this story is anymore, besides like a newspaper article. It's all, you know what I'm saying? It's all what my family had told me. So, like I said, depending on who you talk to, this thing tried to grab one of the kids. Well, they formed a posse, because that was the thing that people liked to do back then. And they went out. They knew where it went. You know what I mean? It wasn't hard. They knew it stayed on this one little small tiny island. They come up on that island from all sides, went on there and caught it. The thing went without a fight. It was more or less shocked, I guess, by what was happening. So they capture this thing, and they're going to kill it. But they're like, hold up. This is some crazy dude. I guess they kind of more or less feel bad about it, because the thing's like emaciated, really bad off. Like I described the hair. When
looking all shaggy and
he looks just rough. You know what I'm saying? And so they're like, shit. Well, let's take this to the governor. So they take it to William D. Bloxham, there in Tallahassee, which is about, I want to say, probably a 45-minute ride from Tallahassee on the interstate at 70 miles an hour. So it probably took a better part of a day to make it, maybe 2 days to get it to the governor. I'm not sure how the miles per hour were on those things. But they take it to him, and he's I guess more or less kind of appalled that they brought this thing to him. But he reluctantly sends out some telegrams asking the local hospitals if they are missing somebody. Nobody is missing a patient. He sends it to the Florida State Hospital, which is back over around the same area where they caught it. Okay? To be fair, Chattahoochee is probably maybe 12 miles as the crow flies, where the state hospital is over there, to where this place is. So maybe a little bit further. But they take it to Chattahoochee. They put it in the hospital there. And that's where, the trail goes cold. Some people say it lived 3 days and died. Other people say 3 years. But it is buried on the grounds there at the Florida State Hospital. It was such
How do we get an order to exhume the body?
And here's the problem, because this is an angle I'm still after them at. The hospital was so bad back then. Like, they just killed people. Like, it was just bad for the patients. These are sick people, and you can't stick train them all, I guess. So you end up killing a few of them, and they had to hire, they had a few different caretakers that were just processing the bodies there. So there's graveyards all over the place at that hospital. Like, all the grounds at some point or another have people buried in the damn soil. So they built buildings over some of these. And they believe it to be this one building, or the lady I talked to believes it to be this one building, but getting permission to drill through the foundation, and then on top of that, you're looking for John Does that come in that year, and there's so many of them.
It's the needle in the haystack.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they buried the bodies like 5 inches apart.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? This wasn't like, oh, we taking care of this person. No, we just bashed this dude's brains in. Just throw him in the fucking hole. You know?
By the way, we had another when we you had Erie, Florida on there, the boys' home.
Yeah, the boys' home.
Jeez.
Yeah, hey, that's not far from there. This is like that's the same county.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yes, you know what I mean.
Wow.
So that's where the trail goes cold. He's buried somewhere there, you know. But that's not the earliest one.
Didn't Florida have a? Wasn't that the place that had the? The place is called the something for mentals and bastards. No, I'm not kidding you. They put people who were bastard
Wasn't
children.
that the name of your fraternity in college?
Yes. But no, it was like they would take people that were bastard kids that would get dumped, and then people that were mentally ill, and they'd throw them in the same house, and the home for mentals and bastards or something like that. I thought it was Florida.
That's called Big Brother, dude.
Jeez.
Oh man. Okay. So you have before we've completely rewritten the Civil War, trashed the judges' fraternity.
I know it wasn't a fraternity.
Oh well, whatever. It was a loose organization of mentals
and bastards.
So you have your experiences. You're sold. So in what order then? Because we want to get to the documentary you did, the Skunk Ape Lives, because the three of us have watched it, loved it, thought it was fantastic. So what then propelled you to say, I need to document?
I need to take this to the next level. I need to go from just hanging out, being a wild man for 10 days in nature to saying, hey, look, I want to start documenting, researching, producing this, and making.
Because that's not an easy task.
No, well, okay, so I won a Spike TV show called Bigfoot Bounty. Okay, I won a research grant with that. So what you're seeing in this film is basically what I did with that money. You know, like those people I talked to, the majority of the people I met were after that show. You know what I mean? Because I was able to invest in myself to do it full time.
Okay.
That's all I did, bro. That was all I did. I hunt skunk ape until the money ran out. And it was fun, and it was great. I met a lot of people. I did a lot of things, come up with a lot of theories, and this really helped me in my research. I was able to dig into things, you know, because like then I could very well justify sitting on YouTube and watching Bigfoot videos.
Absolutely.
I'm doing research. So, you know, I was always working. It was fun, and so that's where I met a lot of these people. And I was in a TV production since I was in elementary school. I used to read the morning announcements. But then in high school, you know, we just make little films and stuff like that. And when I got involved with the television shows and then Finding Bigfoot and other things we've done, people would want to shop me on shows, you know, like companies would call and they'd be like, oh, hey, we want to shoot a TV show with you, blah, blah, blah. And you would come up with an idea, and thank God none of these shows never sold, because like I just look back on it and it's just like gross. You know what I mean? Because the Skunk Ape Lives, the beautiful thing about this film, and the reason I love it, it's like I didn't have to have nobody else's input. I just did what I wanted to do, and people enjoyed it. And so if you get on like Expedition Bigfoot or any of these other shows, Finding Bigfoot, you know, like with Expedition Bigfoot, there's some good people go on that show and straight up lied. They're making entertainment. They're making Bigfoot entertainment. I know when they got sold on that show, they were told they were going to be on there and really be hunting Bigfoot. You ain't got no rights. You ain't got no rights when you work on a TV show. So that's the reason for me, because I love creating content. I love editing. I love doing all that stuff. But I want to do it my way. So, and this was the first one that really, the feedback was just overwhelming. Like the amount of rentals views we've had Ridiculous, bro.
Well, what I liked about it was it's a very straightforward, no nonsense. Here is eyewitness accounts. Here's some theories, and the authenticity of the people that you interviewed, and the genuineness of the people that you interviewed. And the one thing that stuck out to me was when I heard the stories was you could tell people were not embellishing. The details that they put in, some of the details were so mundane that if somebody was going to make a story up, they would not have the minutia that some of these stories added, because these people are telling the story because they're reliving it in their mind. And when you relive it in your mind, you're telling exactly what happened. And it just was, I was really, really impressed with it. And I thought, in my opinion, it's the best Bigfoot show I've seen, because it's straightforward, and you could tell there's no production to it, in that you're trying to get people to tell bullshit stories.
Right. You know, in my opinion, this is what they all should do. You know what I mean? And like, even if you wanted to put like I don't have a problem with like hunting the creature on TV. You know what I mean? Even though it's incredibly boring, but you know, we want to hear from the witnesses. That's why you look at like Sasquatch Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it, dude. I mean, that's it. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear the people who have actually seen this thing.
The sincerity comes through.
Exactly. You know, but like with Finding Bigfoot, when I was doing that, when I did the Mayaka episode, there was a guy who had like contacted me with a Bigfoot story, but he didn't see it, and so he couldn't be on the show. Well, turns out 3 days before we filmed, he went over my head and emailed one of the producers and said, "Oh, I just seen it. I knew this dude was lying." And they didn't. I told Matt, I said, "That dude is lying." He said, "I don't care. He's in the military. We're putting him on TV." I was like, oh my God. It just drove me up a wall, bro.
So, and I know I've said this on several shows, but just for your information, I went to law school with Matt Moneymaker.
Hey, I honestly like Matt Moneymaker.
I mean, I remember him from law school. I don't. I mean,
I partied with the dude. I've had a good time with him.
The dude or anything like that. But I remember.
Well, I dare you, Stacy Brown, to party with the judge. And you will forget about Matt Moneymaker in his part.
Matt was. I like Matt because, like, no matter what happens, when you leave the room, you know what that dude thinks about you. Because he's going to tell you. He ain't got no filter on his mouth. If he thinks you're full of shit or something, I've seen him do it. I've seen him tell people they're lying. I'm thinking to myself, wow, bro. Some of the things he said to people, I'm just like, man. But hey, it's what you got to like about him.
Well, not to give, because I really, you know, I think we all want our listeners to go to, I mean, I watched it on Amazon Prime. Is that the only place that it's available at right now, is Amazon Prime?
No, it's on, we ran through Film Hub as our aggregator, so it's on VidiSpace, it's on Amazon, and then some network that owns a bunch of different streaming channels picked it up. They don't actually give me good analytics, so if anybody out there is making films, never use Film Hub, ever. I'm having to take their word for it. Anyways, so I know it's on Amazon, and it will be.
How do you really feel about Film Hub?
Terrible, dude. Terrible.
We'll put it on pause.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have for this week's episode. Make sure that you tune in next week, where your host, Shane Grove, the judge, and myself will continue this enlightening interview with our very special guest and skunk ape expert, Stacy Brown. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.